So I'm Jenny Hudson. I'm a senior client partner at Caliberty, and Caliberty, we're pleased to partner with NC Tech. This is our, I think, first full year of partnership, so really excited to be here with all of you all. And as Sharon called out, I mean, it is a really exciting time to be in technology. I learned a ton from 2024, going into 2025, a lot of momentum. And the pace of innovation, I think, is staggering. We can all agree. Businesses today just don't need technology. As Sharon called out, they need to thrive and keep up. And so that's where Caliberty comes in. And if you saw our booth over in the event space, Jake and my partner and I are here from Caliberty. Caliberty's partnered with NC Tech and also Aparo, which is a partner for NC Tech as well. And it's based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been in Charlotte since 2006. Started my career with one of the really big consulting firms and ended up at a smaller software consulting firm here in Charlotte with Caliberty. Jake covers our Raleigh market. But Caliberty comes in, we unite with our clients, evolve, help them innovate and drive results. And really whether it's around solving complex challenges, as Sharon mentioned, modernizing legacy systems, that's a big part of what we do for some of our large financial services clients. Or really turning those bold ideas that you might have, especially some of that MarTech spend, into realities, we can help you with that. So we bring deep expertise and a strategic approach to every engagement. With a smaller firm like ours, that's really, we've got about 115 people, and so it's a smaller, more personalized approach, which I personally love. We believe technology should be an enabler, not just an obstacle. So many of our clients have received our support with a number of challenges, such as modernizing legacy systems, developing custom software and products, platform engineering, and exploring what's next in AI and machine learning. This next segment is always a highlight of Outlook for Tech, and we're excited to be part of it this year. More than a decade ago, NC Tech's leadership decided to explore the possibility of producing a scan of the state's tech sector, with the goal of identifying strengths and opportunities. Key audiences would be policymakers, economic developers, the media, and of course our own members. NC Tech has released these annual reports at this event each year and shares the key findings with various audiences throughout the year. Today, you are the first to receive a briefing on the 2025 State of Technology Industry Report, or the NC STIR. Now, NC Tech offers a portfolio of research consisting of two unique elements, which include the NC STIR and the ongoing monthly IT jobs trends report. You can see on the screen here some of the supporters that stepped up thus far to underwrite this body of research for 2025, so we appreciate that. As we've been meeting here this morning, NC STIR has actually gone live on a dedicated website, which you can view at ncstir.com. It's a privilege for me to introduce Ted Abernathy, whose firm has been commissioned to produce this annual report for NC STIR. Ted is nationally recognized. Ted is a nationally recognized economic development leader. He's contracted by states, by regions, and organizations to examine economic strengths and weaknesses and to develop economic development strategies. NC Tech is proud to partner with Ted and the economic leadership to execute this important research annually. So if you will, please join me in welcoming Ted Abernathy. Thanks, Ted.
So I'm glad you didn't have on a black leather jacket, because I would have felt like I missed the memo. I don't know if any of you were in my place last night. American Airlines and I had a lot of fun, and it was quite late when I got in here, so I'm glad to be here today. So I want to ask that since Valentine's Day, just from the crowd, if you take the little Valentine that's on your table and a few of those candy kisses, and I take them home today, is that a brownie point up or not? Up, good, okay. Somebody at this table got the right answer, so that's fun. This is the 11th year we've done this report for Brooks, and this is the 35th year I've been working in the Triangle, and it is the year of my 40th wedding anniversary, so I'm trying to be best I can. We do work all over the country. We do half our work for companies, trying to figure out where they want to be, and so they tell us what's important to them, and we do half our work for economic development groups or foundations or others, trying to be what companies want. And so as long as I can keep straight which one's which, we do a pretty neat job. We're doing the state of New York's new strategy right now, which, as you might imagine, might be a bit of fun. I thought I'd start by trying to set a stage for you. This is our place-based competitiveness matrix. It's 5 areas that people look at when they're thinking about investment for their company. Look at the top corner. It's what you normally think of as business climate. It's taxation, it's regulation, it's legal. This year, and in the last probably 18 months, regulatory climate has become the top thing around the country, and it's because companies want speed to market. Because I agree completely with Forrester, ROI is the thing right now, so people are measuring that. Workforce has always been important, but it's in migration now. Can you attract people to your state? Not a lot of unemployed people laying around anywhere. So can you grow? On the infrastructure side, yes, you got to have water and sewer and all that. Power. 3 years ago, nobody asked the power question. I've been doing this a long time. Everybody just assumed you had power. They might ask what it cost, but they never talked about supply. Data centers, AI, plug-in hybrids, today it's which places have enough generation capacity. It's also, by the way, housing. Whole country average price of a house through the pandemic jumped 50% on average nationally. So affordability became important. Do you have enough houses? Can anybody afford to live there? What do we have to pay people to move to your area? Childcare is up there. Nobody has enough and it's too expensive and I don't know how to fix it. And I've got 3 clients paying me to tell them how to fix it and I still don't know how to fix it. So if you know how to fix childcare, please come up afterwards, I'll hire you. And then for this type of audience, the innovation piece has become sort of innovation, creativity. Think about how that goes. What's become important, more important lately, is people looking at the advanced industries in your area. So do you have the places that are growing, the types of companies that are actually going to be able to grow? A lot of people have growth right now. Some states don't, but a lot do. But what's the innovation mix in your community? And then in the middle is something that we never had before. We used to have this 4-point thing. Now we have a star because coming out of COVID, every company asks us the risk question. What's the risk by weather? What's the risk with crime rates in your area? What's the fiscal stability? What's the political stability? You know, is anybody moving out? And now, of course, we get all the geopolitical, and I'll update this week. We're doing an update, and we'll talk about federal funding risk. And that will be part of a whole bunch of places. If you're in Maryland or New York or Texas or North Carolina or California, your risk factors just changed again. And so as you think about the technology numbers for the state, remember that when people are looking at investment, all of you too, you're looking at it through a context lens. Now, some years I talk a lot about the North Carolina economy. It's good. Let's just go ahead. The economy, and one of the lessons for everyone is the state's economy isn't a single county's economy, isn't a single person's economy. We're all different, but overall, North Carolina is a leading state. Our numbers are really good on most economic factors. We're growing faster in jobs, we're growing faster in population, we're growing faster in GDP than the rest of the country. So this year, we're not going to spend much time on that, just to say that when we look at the most competitive states, those are the top 10 right now, and that's an aggregate of all the people who rank top competitive states. And we look at our work that we do nationally on the most competitive regions. 3 of the top competitive regions in the 10 are in North Carolina. Other than Huntsville, all the competitive metros are in competitive states. State competitiveness and metro competitiveness are symbiotic. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you, almost all the states are Republican-led and all the metros are Democratic-led, and we don't do politics, but it's a combination everywhere. And so think about that as you go forward. We're also a state that has benefited dramatically by in-migration. So we're one of the states that everybody's moving to. Well, that drives the workforce and it cuts the risk and it increases the innovation and it does all those other things. So as long as our quality of life and our cost of doing business and cost of living have a nice balance, then we will not kill that golden goose. But it's something that we think about all the time. Crazy chart for you, and last one on this side of it, which is that we look continuously at how places are ranked, how states are ranked, versus how they perform. So if you're in the green box down at the bottom, everybody ranks you as being wonderful, and your top line economic data is wonderful. That's the gold box down there, the green one. If you're up in the corner at the top, people think you're bad and your performance is bad. There are some outliers. There are places that do better than people think they should do and places that do worse than people think they do. So we try to look at that all the time to make sure that, you know, you're going to see a front page article anytime somebody's ranked in the top 5 anywhere. Is it real? So when we run this year's technology numbers, 2 things to start as platforms. The first is over the last 5 years, the growth in the tech industry in North Carolina is only exceeded by the growth in the financial services industry. Keep that in the back of your head because I'm going to show you some financial service stuff in a few minutes. It's a terribly important industry to the state, partially because when you look at economic ripple in an economy, tech jobs have some of the highest ripple rates. That's because they have some of the highest pay rates. So the more you get paid, the more you pay for services and buy things out in the community, and so your impact is greater. So when we look at technology, and some of you who've been here multiple years have heard this a lot, we have stayed consistent for 11 years, so you can see consistency. There are 86 different industry codes that make up tech. It's on page, 82, Brooks, of the report. If you go to NC STIR, it's all in the back. You can see it's transparent. And we'll talk about occupations today too, because you can work in the tech industry and not have a tech job, and you can have a tech job and not work in the tech industry. So we're going to talk about both. And when we look at occupations, there's 85 occupations. So good news, the tech industry, if you index it back to 2010, coming out of the Great Recession, we've been growing and our growth rate is accelerating, the differential between what's happening in the South in general. We started this looking at our neighbors and realized that we weren't like our neighbors. We were like a lot of other people. So North Carolina's been doing better and better. The magic number this year is 323,000 employees in the tech industry with 34,000 companies in North Carolina and a whole bunch of billions, over 40 in wages. 11 years ago, there were 220,000 in the first report. So we've added 100,000 tech jobs over the last decade or so. The big difference when you index it, we've been adding employees, y'all have been more productive, so GDP is faster than employment, but we've also been fragmenting the numbers. 11 years ago, there were a lot of big tech companies. There still are. There's now a slew of little tech companies everywhere. And so the fragmentation in the industry, so the number of tech companies is now 3 times what it was 11 years ago. So they're scattered all over the place. When we look what type of companies, computer systems design, custom programming, software, those are the type of companies that are popping up a little bit of everywhere. Tech, with its direct and indirect impacts, are now at 22% of our total economy in the state. They used to be 18%. They continue to be a bigger and bigger part of the state economy. And we divide technology into 4 pieces, so we can look at it separately. That's also in the back of the report. You can see how it's done. There's energy tech, environmental tech, life sciences, and IT. And as you can see in North Carolina, IT, which is hardware, software, and communication, basically, core IT, some people call it, that's where the big numbers are here. Last year, we grew in every sector. The overall growth was 3.6%. The growth over the last 5 years is almost 19%. But there's big growth. Last year, the bounce back in environmental tech includes batteries, by the way. A lot of investment, so battery pops up into the environmental tech area. We also divided out to look at tech services versus tech manufacturing. And the service numbers have stayed relatively consistent as a ratio to the manufacturing number. Growth has been in service area a lot. And this last year actually was one of the better years for manufacturing. 11 years ago, there were about as many jobs as there are now in manufacturing. The manufacturing output is dramatically higher. So it's automation and innovation all in there. But the tech services over the last 5 years has grown by a quarter. Salaries continue to rise in North Carolina. When we started this, we were pretty far behind the national average. Even with purchasing power, understanding cost of living adjusted, today over the total tech industry, the average jobs pays just under $150,000 wages and benefits. So we've gotten closer and closer to the national average, remembering that the national average is concentrated in some pretty pricey areas. If you're in Massachusetts or New York or California or Washington, this is cost of living adjusted, but still when companies are looking, they look closely at the wages, so that's important to them. When people are looking at where they move, they look closely at the wages, and that's important to them. Those aren't exactly, everybody's not looking for exactly the same thing, but the higher wages are great, and when Brooks is talking to North Carolina legislators about the tech industry, and they see that average wage pop out, then that's a pretty good thing. It sells it pretty quickly. We also look at the sub-industries of what's really growing. Software is the cheese up there at the top, and R&D and testing. Huge growth, 42% growth in the software industry sector in the last 5 years. We are a major place for that around the country. We look around the state. We don't do these at the sub-state level for publication, but we look. And those are for the tech industry, all of those, what color is that, fuchsia? I don't know. These are NC Tech number colors. I have blue and green in my stuff. I don't know, Okay, whatever color that is, there's a bunch of it, and it's gotten wider, and I'll show you more of that when we get to the occupation stuff. Bottom line for us over the last 5 years, growth in the country, we're 8th currently, percentage growth. So Nevada's at the top. Those are people leaving California. I'm not being mean. That's what Utah, some of the main stuff and others, people tried to get out of Boston. People are looking for that return on investment that where affordability matters these days for tech companies. And when you look at it on a map, you see that the South, it's us in Georgia and Tennessee and Florida. It's not the whole South. That inner mountain west area out there running sort of from Colorado to Washington. And then Maine has become a hotbed. And the news, I think the tech plan was some people from RTI who moved to Maine about 15 years ago and created a tech economy and started jazzing it up. And so they've done a pretty good job. Once again, we're the #1 place in the country, #1 state for women in technology. We have a higher percentage of the tech population. It's usually the first question Brooks asks when we run the new data. Are we still #1? Are we still, so DC doesn't count. I still have to put it up here to make the numbers work, but it's not a state. It's not going to be a state, so #1 state, and that's lovely to have. When we look at the rankings, there's a whole bunch of them that put us in the top 10. You can go through all of them. There are dozens of them in the report. You can see where everything's grown and what the numbers are as we go through. We're top 15 for 19 of those data sets, so pretty good list. So I told you we also look at occupations. So remember that if you're doing software for Belks, you have a tech occupation. There are 323 jobs in the industry sector. There are 437 jobs in the occupations. Only 35% of tech workers work for tech companies. So think about that for just a minute. And if you look, it's all the technology growing in other companies that is the huge surge in North Carolina. That's what the map looks like in North Carolina for occupational concentration of people who do tech work. So if you look at what happened since 2016, you can see that technology jobs are permeating the rest of our economy. A lot in professional technical services, a lot in government, a lot in finance. Huge numbers. You see the finance and insurance number right here. Big jumps in what technology looks like in finance. So if you're here in Charlotte, you know, what being a banker isn't the same as it used to be, right? So if we look at where that's growing over the last 5 years, huge jumps in occupations and software, market research analyst, computer and information systems design, as they permeated every industry that we have. Top growth areas, excuse me, huge growth by numbers in software developers. Look at the growth percentages though. Life scientists, data architects, data scientists. I mean, if you got a math degree or statistics degree or computer science, mathematics supported degree, you're in business right now because the growth is dramatic. When we look at, we divide it up so you can see where the opportunities are for new recruitment. It's exactly what you would think it would be in North Carolina. So we need to recruit more women. We have our whole economy for diversity to continue to recruit from. So how we do that is in early stage work. If we look at the top occupational change in the country, 4th over that period of time. So Florida, Utah, Texas, and us. We'll throw Nevada in and realize that Utah and Nevada are ex-California for the most part, and us in Texas and Florida are driving our part of the world. That's what the tech occupation numbers look like. Texas jumps in, Maine jumps out, and the rest of them are mostly the same. When we look at earnings as tech workers in other places, not as high. We're still 8th highest in the country, but it's not quite as high as working in the technology industry. We also, in the report, look at the basics of how you build a foundation for technology. So first, you've got to have people. Working age population growth, we were 11th projected over the next 10 years. So we're still going to grow, but because we're getting a little less affordable in the state, we probably won't grow quite as fast as we've grown. Raw numbers will be the same or higher, but percentage-wise, we'll continue to drop a little bit. We also look at the requirements for the types of tech jobs. Some of you have to have BAs, some of you need a 2-year degree, some of you don't need any of that. You find people who graduate high school and can fill some of your jobs. Good news in North Carolina, and this is different than other states we work in, is our numbers of completers for computer information and engineering and biomedical continue to be high. Some people have flattened out in recent years. Our numbers here continue to stay quite high. We could use a few more mathematicians. So tell your 7th grader they ought to be a math major. See how that goes over. We're also a top state for STEM completers. There are some interesting people who have been trying this hard. So when you look at this data, I'd encourage you to look at the states who are really pushing STEM at the middle grades. North Carolina is high, but there are a lot of people sort of coming up on the outside, if you will. Our universities continue to be key for our state. We're top 10 for university startups that generate out. Congratulations to UNC Charlotte, my brother's alma mater, and East Carolina, my son's alma mater. Brooks and I have been friends for 20 years. He went to State, I went to Carolina. We still like each other, it's okay. I won't say anything about Duke. One of the big changes that's happened that's really important though is the R&D funding. We're 14th in R&D funding in the country right now. We're 10th overall in what is done by business, which will be more and more important as we go forward. By the way, we didn't used to be that high. We were 21st in business formed R&D when we started doing this report. We're now 10th, big up. Home values have continued to rise, but we are still in the middle of affordability for the country, so pretty good. And as we go forward, it's the geopolitics that'll probably be on everybody's mind. Foreign direct investment is important to the state of North Carolina. Many of our tech companies come from overseas, so we'll watch that closely as the world changes in front of us. We ended up at 15 of the top 20 places for occupational, and that's good. As we look forward for the final data for the last year, next year, it's a roller coaster that the tech industry's been on. Y'all know that very well. So overall, the job openings are down a little. They're still up in AI. That's the only time I said AI, by the way. I was going to try not to, but it's a slide. They're up in cybersecurity, and they're really up still in fintech. So job openings are still there in specific areas. People trying to get a little leaner, but there's still opportunity. So we're real proud that I'm a native North Carolinian, grew up in Gaston County, just to the west of here. Real proud that our state has continued to build the type of infrastructure we need for technology. Numbers are still great. We'll keep looking every year and just thank Brooks and the team here for allowing us to be part of it. Thank you.